This is Ray.
This is Andy.
And this is FDS CFL Season 3, Andy. Episode 9.
Ray, you and I were over at the University of Moncton Stadium this afternoon.
Yeah.
The location for Touchdown Atlantic. It's about 35 degrees outside, and I am melting.
Melting.
And you know what you need when you're melting? We need to talk about our sponsors, and we never need to talk about our sponsor more urgently than right now. If you're feeling the way that I'm feeling at the moment, go get yourself a Moose Light. Why, Ray?
Because Moose Light is scary good. And let me tell you, Andy, Moose Light doesn't just have terrific beer, but it's got an awesome Moose Light Radler. So I've got a little Radler on the go, which is great in 30-degree melting weather. Whew. So this is also very scary good.
Thank you for having that in the cooler. I mean, that was excellent. That was refreshing. If you need logos on shirts, hats, whatever, go see our buddies the Doyles at Doyle Corporate Image.
Because the Doyles rule.
The Doyles do indeed rule. Man, let's recap the Week 7 games, Ray. There were 2 Thursday games. And it started off kind of interesting. Calgary visits Ottawa. Calgary pulls this one out with the help of an absolute bonehead coaching call to go ahead and take a safety in the end zone up 4, which pretty much everybody watching that game immediately were thinking, okay, well, that's going to lead to a field goal for the win if you do that. Yeah. Calgary beats Ottawa 17-16. I've been so down on Ottawa that I actually thought Calgary might blow them out. In the end, I mean, Ottawa's just reinforcing my opinion of them. Arbuckle, let's switch to the positive on Calgary. Arbuckle had a real solid game, man, but at some point, this kid's got to start throwing touchdowns.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, the yards are great, but you got to throw some touchdowns. 370
yards, Andy. He goes 30 for 37.
Yep.
But like you said, he's got to start putting some points on the board for that offense.
Exactly. Well, the second game that night, way less eventful. It started so late. Us on the Atlantic coast here, I don't think many of us caught it. Toronto rolls into Edmonton. Trevor Harris bounces back big, though. How can you not bounce back against this team? Toronto has 5 turnovers and 0 points. I don't even want to talk about this game, Ray. So if you have any facts you want to toss out about it, anything that piqued your interest about this game at all, I'm listening.
Your buddy Ron Burgundy didn't come out in the second half for the Argos. The young kid that we've talked about earlier this year, Dakota Prukop, comes out in the second. He, too, threw a couple interceptions in the second half. And we're going to talk about the Toronto Argonauts later in the show, but they really don't have a quarterback in Toronto right now.
They don't have a lot in Toronto. All right, the Friday night game was probably the most exciting game, though also the most heartbreaking game for some fans. Winnipeg rolls into Hamilton. Hamilton is controlling things, but, I mean, near the end of the first quarter, catastrophe. Jeremiah Mazzoli goes down. You could kind of see we were suspecting ACL right from the start. Unfortunately, it's been confirmed that it is the ACL. It's tough. It's the worst thing that can possibly happen to any football team, losing your starting quarterback. Dane Evans came in. He looked shaky, but he wasn't ready to go in there. No. And they didn't practice for him. So I'm just going to say I was incredibly impressed that they were able to hold on to that lead without Mazzoli for 3 quarters plus of the game and beat the best team in the league. Sure, they were at home, but I was very impressed with what happened. But, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Hamilton now.
Do you remember last year when we were watching Winnipeg, from week to week, you didn't know what kind of quarterback you're going to get in Matt Nichols?
Right.
This game was a reminder of last season for me with Matt Nichols. Matt Nichols comes out and does something he hasn't done all year. He only goes 29 for 48, Andy. 261 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions.
Yep.
He had an off night. Yes, Hamilton holds him off, which I think is great for the Ticats, but I'm very concerned right now as Dane Evans as my quarterback. He went 13 for 25, 94 yards and an interception, Andy.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of work to put in this week to get ready for their next game.
He has work to do, but I am not counting this guy out, and I'm definitely not counting out his supporting cast, and we'll talk about more of that later. Okay. The Saturday game, Saskatchewan goes into BC. Mike Riley is absolutely dismal. This is one of these games where even Riley can't be Riley. Saskatchewan takes this one 45-18. Saskatchewan dominated defensively. They dominated in the running game. William Powell had a huge game. We say this every week that the teams going on bye desperately need those byes, but man, BC needs this bye.
BC needs this bye. Yeah. Powell had a 3-touchdown night, Andy, 146 yards receiving. And Mike Riley, for the first time in his career, he only put up 66 yards passing.
I had to triple take that.
Yeah,
I had to really
66 yards.
Yep.
And John White, the running back, only put up 29 yards. There's a lot wrong with BC right now. And again, I've got some more to talk about them later in the show as well.
If you took Mike Riley in your fantasy squad for Week 7, don't quit. Don't quit. But I know why you want to.
Exactly.
And that's all I'm going to say. What about Ray's take it and leave it this week? What do you got?
Well, in my take 'em this week, Andy, I tell you what, the one thing I'm not taking this week is Rough Rider and Ticat fans.
Wow.
These people are out in left field. But I'll talk about that when we get into the power rankings. Do you have anything you'd like to take this week? Because outside that, I don't have anything.
You told me you were struggling with that. I'll tell you what I'm taking, Ray. All right. I am taking the Hamilton Tiger Cats' chances to win the East. Okay? Now, I know that doesn't sound like a crazy... Well, maybe it sounds like a crazy statement. Let's talk about this for a second. Ottawa and Toronto are garbage. Yeah. Sorry, they're garbage right now. And, I mean, they've been really reinforcing it week to week.
Dominic Davis has been hurt, though. So
he's taking reps this week, and the hope is that he's going to play. But even when he was in there, I mean, there was one good game. Yeah. Listen, so then we got Montreal. Now, you and I, after the first 2 games, Montreal was 0-2, and we weren't even sure who was worse, Toronto or Montreal. 3 games. You know how excited I am about the Alouettes.
Yeah.
But listen, anything can change week to week. So all I'm saying is the supporting cast in Hamilton, the defense, the special teams, and the weapons for this, Dane Evans, I think Hamilton has a shot to win the East, go into the playoffs. Do I expect much to happen there? It's going to be tough. But I am taking Hamilton's chances to keep winning football games.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. All right.
What are you leaving?
What am I leaving? All right.
Aside from that take that I just spit out.
I am leaving, and we just talked about this. If there's anything that drives me more crazy, it's this about Canadian football.
Okay.
Nothing drives me more crazy than this. I've got on my AUS officiating shirt.
I was wondering about that.
And I've seen this so many times in Canadian football, whether it's high school football, whether it's university football, and pro football, and that's conceding a safety in Canadian football.
Yeah.
It happens way too often and in spots where it should not happen.
Right. There's a time for it. There's a very smart time.
If you got the ball on your 1 yard line,
yeah,
you might want to take a safety if you're punting. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
All right? But
only if the points make it. Only if it makes sense point wise.
Yeah,
don't give away the game.
You don't give away the game.
Yeah.
I saw an AUS coach last year, Andy, give up 3 safeties in one game. Mm-hmm. One of them, he gave up the safety to give up the lead. It literally gave up the lead by him taking a safety, and then took a safety later in the game after that one burned him. I don't understand coaches that concede a safety. It tells your team you have no faith in your punter, no faith in your special teams, no faith in your special teams coordinator or defensive coordinator, and no faith in your defense. Yeah. Stop sending that message to your team and punt the damn ball downfield. Give your defense a chance. Let's go.
Or in this case, no faith in your offense either, right? Just because they would have been pinned deep in their zone. I mean, give them a shot to get out of there. Don't give up the.
It's the stupidest play in football, conceding a safety when points are at threat.
There. All right. Okay, I'm glad you were able to get that off your chest. Now, speaking of getting things off people's chests, we were unloaded on today in the comments because of our power rankings.
Are we going to power rankings now?
Okay. Oh, absolutely. You a little bit more so than me. Our power rankings are very different this week. We both took very different angles with the Ticats. I'm sporting my Ticats jersey as I told you, I still believe in them.
Yeah.
And I kind of treated it that way in my power rankings. So I'll run you through my power rankings. My power rankings, this has never happened in all my years of doing power ranks for any league. Not a single team moved.
Wow.
Winnipeg stays at number 1, and Hamilton stays at number 2. Let me explain this to you. If it wasn't for the catastrophic news of Jeremiah Masoli being out for the season, Hamilton would have been number 1. No questions asked on my list. The fact that he's out and I don't know what we're going to see from Hamilton, I'm leaving them at number 2 because they deserve the benefit of a full week to prepare with this new quarterback and a full game to prove what they can do. Now, once we see what happens on the field with this new setup, then I'll start to adjust Hamilton accordingly, but I'm not going to guess how good or bad they are following this ahead of time. So at the very least, they get to stay at number 2. Montreal stays at number 3. This ticked a few people off as well because the next 3 teams, Edmonton, Calgary, and Saskatchewan, they all won. Well, you want to know why? All of them winning did not mean that one of them or all 3 of them got to move up ahead of Montreal because they beat garbage. Complete garbage. And that includes Calgary, who barely. They actually needed a coach's mistake to beat a terrible team. So you guys all get to stay exactly where you were. Edmonton stays at 4. Calgary stays at 5. Saskatchewan stays at 6. Ottawa stays at 7. And Ottawa stays at 7. I'd like to move them down even further, but BC and Toronto are entrenched in the final spots. Those are my power rankings. Sad to say it, but that's how I threw them out there, and I believe it was the right decision. You made a different decision, and I'm cool with it. Walk us through.
All right, Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Again, I agree with you, Andy. Ticats, they were getting that number 1 slot because they beat Winnipeg. And when on Saturday, when the news broke that Masoli was out for the year, that had a big impact on how I feel this team's going to do in the future. You talked earlier about you think Hamilton's the championship goes through Hamilton. I disagree with that today. Today, I disagree.
Yeah.
So I only went by the performance I saw in Dane Evans.
Yep.
He does not look like a comfortable quarterback in the pocket at all.
Right.
Does not look comfortable in the pocket. He is trying to check down from the second he gets that ball in his hands. I don't feel good there. That's why I dropped Hamilton back. I got a lot of feedback on people telling me that I'm crazy for dropping Hamilton back. But listen, folks, if you can tell me why Hamilton should be up in that number 2 or number 1 spot, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
But if you tell me Dean Evans is the guy today, Dane,
yeah.
You're nuts. You're absolutely nuts. I moved Calgary or Edmonton back in the number 2 spot right now, which I got a little heat that went from. I already said I was hard on them the week before.
Right, that was a big jump, 5-2.
Yeah, I really killed them the week before. I bumped them back up to 2. Right now, I do believe they are the second best team in the CFL right now, even though my buddy Trevor Harris is having a really tough time scoring points himself. We mentioned that about Arbuckle. Harris is having a tough time putting the ball in the end zone as well.
100%.
Calgary takes my number 3. They won this week. Even though they were given a win, they won, so I left them up there. Montreal, everybody knows how I feel about Montreal.
Right.
They've had the worst bye of all time. 3-game winning streak. The last thing you want to do is go into a bye, Andy.
Yep.
So I left Montreal where they are because I want to see how they come out of this bye. And they're going to be playing Ottawa. I hope Dominic Davis is back. I want to see who this Montreal team really is now that they've had a week or 2 weeks to prepare.
Yeah.
And they're on the rise in my power rankings today. Saskatchewan Roughriders, we're hearing a lot of comments about this.
Yeah.
One is, how am I putting them below the Montreal Alouettes right now? I just had a huge discussion with a guy today on Facebook.
I had no problem
telling me that Saskatchewan is easily, on paper, a better team than Montreal. And I said, let's look at the last 3 games. Montreal has beat Edmonton, Hamilton, Ottawa. Mm-hmm. Saskatchewan has beat BC, and lost big time to Calgary.
Yeah.
So Saskatchewan Roughrider fans, stop talking to me until your team wins a game of some kind of importance. Sorry.
There you go.
That's where it is. Yeah. Hamilton, I've already told my story there. BC, You deserve to be in ninth place right now, and the only thing that's keeping you alive is the fact that Toronto hasn't won a game.
All right.
There's my power rankings.
So I think the only thing that I disagree with is where you decided to guess. Like, I decided not to guess what Hamilton's going to be and see it happen. You decided to guess, and I thought maybe the guess was a little harsh.
Not guess, forecast.
Forecast? Fair enough. Forecast. Thought it was a little harsh, but it is what it is. What do you got for odds and ends this week?
All right, we got lots of odds and ends this week and some Atlantic Schooners updates for you, Andy.
Woo!
Last week when we got done recording our podcast, a news story broke on Tuesday that the city of Moncton had to get together on Monday night and have a secretive vote, or a vote just between the mayor and the councilors. Because the stadium that's being used for Touchdown Atlantic, it has been leased by the Schooners for the purposes of football.
Yep.
And that field right now is a turf soccer field.
Yeah.
And the end zones, which were purchased in 2010, are currently rolled up, sitting in some undisclosed warehouse that they need to pay a third-party company to come in and install these end zones at a price tag, Andy, of, wait for this, $55,000.
Wow.
That's a big price tag to roll a piece of carpet out.
Yeah, I think so.
These councilors and the mayor had a vote. The vote went 7-3. 3 councilors voted against it because they didn't want public funds being used for this game. And, so that was a big story that came out on Tuesday last week. I was on CTV. I was also on 91.9 The Bend talking about this issue this week. Some details started rolling out, Andy, and the fact that $3 from every ticket purchased is going towards what's called a stadium fee, we're being told.
Yep.
And that stadium fee is going to go back to the city of Moncton.
Right.
Now, there's another bigger issue that I talked about on 91.9, but it was really your words. and that is the whole issue that our city is arguing about $55,000 right now.
Yeah, we got Halifax down there, and they are trying to decide whether or not they're going to build a $130 million stadium. And here we are, proud of ourselves to be hosting Touchdown Atlantic in Moncton, thinking, hey, maybe we'll even get the team for an entire season while Halifax Stadium is getting built. And then these crazy outlandish thoughts that can't help but creep into our heads that maybe the Halifax plans fall through, but we have them for a season and prove we can, support the team and we get to keep them. Yeah. All of that out the window when we're sitting here bickering over $55,000, bickering over the price of a new 3/4 ton truck.
Yeah.
All right, come on. So I was a little embarrassed about that, but then at the same time, I mean, look. So we own the nicest stadium in Canada, east of Laval. And there is barely any football played there. University of Moncton does not have an AUS football team. For whatever reason, the dealings between the city and the university on how that stadium gets used does not allow us to play our high school football championship games there or anything, despite it being nicer than any AUS stadium in all of Atlantic Canada. And what this tells me is the fact that we have a bunch of turf to put an end zone out that's been rolled up in a shed somewhere for almost 10 years, and we don't even have anybody, that works for the city that knows how to put this down. There were no plans of football being played there ever again until Touchdown Atlantic showed up. So super disappointing, very embarrassing. Though that said, I'm getting all fired up about this, but I blame, the people that decided to break the news on the 2 councillors that voted against this versus just focusing on the news that the vote was to do it. But again, it's just embarrassing to see Moncton in a story flash that Moncton's mad and considered calling off Touchdown Atlantic for $55,000.
Yeah,
that's all I got to say.
Crazy.
Yep.
All right. On Touchdown Atlantic, while we were there today, Andy, there's been some rumors surfacing as far as where are you going to park your car going to the game?
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's going to operate just like the past couple of Touchdown Atlantics, we were told.
Yeah.
Now, there is parking on side streets all around the stadium there.
Right.
But what's happening with the actual parking lots at UDM?
Yeah. So, University of Moncton, I was wrong. I was commenting on some Facebook groups and so on saying if University of Moncton doesn't take advantage of charging people to park in all of these parking lots that are scattered throughout University of Moncton around the stadium, that they'd be crazy. Well, they're not going to do that. They're going to lock them down entirely. Now, we were over at the stadium today, and we met with some people from the CFL as well as the city, and we asked them about that so we could give an official answer to at least our listeners that asked us. And it comes down to this, and it actually does make sense to me, Ray. I'm okay with it. And that's University of Moncton is a campus. It's a university campus, and it was there long before that stadium was ever built there. So all of these parking lots that are scattered around the stadium are actually there for buildings that people go to school in and so on. And what separates those parking lots are legitimate streets. It's basically like a little community in there with stop signs and everything. So you drive around that place like you're driving through a little rural community.
Exactly.
So the folks from the city explained it to us. They've tried it multiple ways. They've tried providing full parking around the stadium. They've tried providing some parking, and then they've tried providing no parking. And again, they're going back to no parking in the immediate UDM area because of safety reasons. And I get it. If 10 to 20,000 people vacate that stadium, and then the folks that get to their cars first come peeling out of those parking lots, where are they? Well, they're driving in actual streets trying to make it out to the main drag. And what's in those streets? People. So, because they're walking all the way through. So, I get it, I guess. But you know what? Laval's kind of like that, and they figured it out.
Every university in Canada's like that.
Yeah.
Every university in Canada is like that. I think this is the stupidest decision I've ever heard of, Andy, and I have no problem saying it. UDM, universities are trying to come up with every possible way to make money to hopefully lower tuitions for students.
Yep.
If they charge $10 a car, Andy, okay, for the number of spots that they have,
right,
there's a yearly tuition for a student.
Well, and again, though, Ray, as we found out today, it wasn't up to them. This was a decision between Moncton and the CFL for safety reasons.
It was, yes, but there was a commission of people that made this decision. Mm-hmm. UDM had a big seat at that table. A big seat at that table.
Yeah. So long story short, guys, if you guys are traveling into Moncton, there is no parking right at the stadium. But like Ray said, this is Moncton. Everybody drives everywhere. There are going to be buses. There's going to be places in big parking lots where you can leave your car and hop in a bus and come over. But you will be able to find a place to park your car for free in the surrounding areas and walk over to the stadium. And if you have somebody that can't walk, a 10, 15-minute distance, drop them off and then go park your car. You will be able to find a place to park your car, but there won't be a parking lot at the stadium.
Check out the City of Moncton's website. I believe it's moncton.ca, and I'm sure they'll have a map on their website telling you where you can park, and they'll have shuttles running back and forth to the game.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
Last thing, Andy, on my odds and ends this weekend. It's time to play the hot seat.
Hot seat.
Okay. Because there's a few teams in the CFL that currently have some coaches and GMs on hot seats, and I just want to talk about a couple teams. In Toronto right now, we got the GM, Jim Pop, and head coach Corey Chamberlain. BC, you have the coach Devon Claybrooks and the GM Ed Hervey. Mm-hmm. And then Ottawa, you have Rick Campbell over that bonehead call that he made, taking a safety, conceding a safety.
Yep.
What I want to know is, out of these 5 names that I've just read to you, who's on the biggest hot seat right now to be the first one let go from his position in the CFL?
I think you got to go with Jim Pop here. And I mean, my gosh, if you listen to Argo fans, they're pretty much pinning all of the blame on Jim Pop. But I mean, Jim Pop's made some interesting decisions all along. Now, Jim Pop was there for a Grey Cup victory as well, right? So, but
quickly people forget.
Yeah, exactly. People do forget. See, if you look in Ottawa, I mean, in Rick Campbell, I mean, they were just in the Grey Cup, right? So, I think he's got a bit more time. Again, that bonehead decision doesn't do him any favors, but he's not going to get fired over that. So, and what's going on in BC right now? I mean, they made that huge splash with all those acquisitions, and we got a new head coach here that
hasn't worked out.
That needs to find a way to get this team playing together. And I don't think you can write them off just yet. I think Jim Pop's the guy with the most tenure here, and I mean, they are by far the biggest disaster at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, by far, I'll take that back a little bit, but they are the biggest disaster at the moment. So I would go ahead and say Jim Pop.
I called these guys out a couple of weeks ago, Jim Pop and Chamberlain, for the fact that they went into this year.
Chamberlain, yeah. Anyway,
Chamberlain.
Yeah.
We went into this year with no quarterbacks basically on their roster that they had confidence in.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think Jim Pop will be the first one off this list.
All right.
That's your odds and ends for Week 7.
Week 7 odds and ends. Let's go over our picks, Ray. I know you love facts. I know you love fun facts.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you one of the funnest facts that you could think of right now.
All right.
I just pulled off my third 4-0 week.
Wow.
In a row. I went 4-0 with the picks, and I nailed my my upset with Hamilton pulling the upset. That takes me to 20-7 on the season, and I am 4-3 in my upsets and locks.
Nice.
Ray, you took some risks, and you called out at the time that you were taking them.
Yeah.
You went 2-2. Your lock of the week, which you called against Hamilton, Winnipeg, did not work out. So you're now 18-9. So I'm ahead of you by 2 games in the picks, and in the tiebreak for the locks and the upsets, we're both at 4-3.
4-3.
Okay. All right. So you're still within striking distance, but I've officially taken the first lead. My first lead.
I let you in.
All right.
It's almost like conceding a safety what I did last week with my picks.
Yeah, it kind of was that actually.
Kind of was.
Yeah. All right, so Week 8 picks. Again, 2 Thursday games. The early game. Winnipeg's in the early game again. Winnipeg is rolling into Toronto. What do you see happening there?
Isn't it funny that every time a team has a big loss, their next week they have a game against Toronto? Think about it. Edmonton.
Yeah.
Hamilton.
Yeah.
Now Winnipeg.
It is kind of funny.
It is kind of funny. But anyways, Winnipeg is headed into Toronto, and I'm not using my sleeper or my, underdog pick here. No. I'm going Winnipeg all the way to bounce back in this game big.
I got Winnipeg bouncing back here as well, and that's my lock of the week, Winnipeg on the road.
Okay.
There's no other way to go there. Thursday, the second game, Hamilton's going to Saskatchewan. Now, this is an interesting game. Very interesting game. We're going to find out what Hamilton is. Saskatchewan's defense is amazing, and their running game really was huge in Week 7. But the Ticats' defense is really good too. So this is going to be an interesting game. Might be low scoring, but we're going to find out what Hamilton's made of. What do you got here?
Well, this is an interesting one because, again, I mentioned this already. Saskatchewan's last 2 wins were against BC.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now they're going against, I'd say, before a top tier team, right? Before the injury to Mazzoli. But I'm going to have to eventually take a upset here.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the black and gold to knock off the Gainer and the Rough Riders at home.
And because of the lack of Mazzoli, I will consider that an upset for you. I am taking Hamilton. Now, even though I don't need to call an upset, I'm wearing my Hamilton jersey. I believe in Hamilton, and it starts this week, and I'm taking Hamilton to win this game. So, and I don't know if you remember the last time you called an upset, and I took that game anyways as my actual pick, but it worked out in our favors as well, and that was Montreal's big win that really kind of got everything going.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, Friday's game, Ottawa at Montreal. You and I have been, we're very high on Montreal. It sucked last week that we didn't have Montreal to watch. I really hope that this head coach and that team knows how to handle that bye week and come out, now that the expectations are way higher. I want to see what kind of team comes out here. They're facing off against Ottawa. Dominic Davis is potentially back. We'll see what's going to happen here.
I'm taking Montreal all the way.
Yeah.
That defense, Andy. I just had a big talk today with that guy about Saskatchewan and Montreal. Montreal's defense is playing lights out.
Yeah.
They might not have the names on paper like Saskatchewan does, but as a unit, they chased Dominic Davis all over the place 4 weeks ago.
Yep.
They chased Harris around. They chased Mazzoli around. This defense is fast. They play sideline to sideline. I'm taking Montreal.
Great. And I, of course, am taking Montreal as well.
Okay.
There's no other place I can go there. On Saturday, Edmonton at Calgary. This is a tough one to call.
This can be
This is
good.
a tough one to call. Trevor Harris doesn't throw touchdowns. Arbuckle doesn't throw touchdowns. Though, both teams put up points.
Yeah.
All right.
And yards. They both throw yards.
Yeah. Points and yards. What do you got going on here?
This is
I'm
really...
going to give you my call first?
Yeah,
since you're calling these on the fly here. Yeah. I'm taking Edmonton to win this on the road. I think that Trevor Harris is going to score touchdowns, and I think maybe Arbuckle is going to have a hard time keeping pace with him. Again, that's just what I'm feeling right now. It could go in the other direction. These teams have not faced each other yet this year, so I didn't really have much to go on. But I think Trevor Harris at least has shown the ability to explode for big games, and Arbuckle hasn't really been able to put up a big score when he needs to the most. So I'm going to go with Edmonton on the road, beating Calgary.
All right. Well, Andy, I got some news for you.
I'm listening.
Both of us are going 4-0 this week.
Okay.
Because I, too, am taking Edmonton. I'm taking Trevor Harris. This is a big game. The Battle of Alberta is always a big game between these two teams. And I believe that Harris is going to come out this week, use the weapons that he's got.
Yeah.
And I believe Harris is going to I'm going to go 3 touchdowns on the board if you want to have a tiebreaker.
Okay.
He's going to throw 3 touchdowns this week against that Calgary defense, and they'll win this ball game 28-18.
Okay. All right. Good enough. Let's talk fantasy. It was a dismal fantasy week for both of us, though I have a feeling a lot of people struggled in fantasy this week, especially if anybody had Mike Riley.
Yeah.
I put up 60 points.
Ooh.
60.0 points. It was a rough week. In fact, I'm blocking it out of my mind now as to actually who I had last week. I had Matt Nichols, Lucky Whitehead, Breskison didn't do much, Deron Carter, and the entire BC Lions didn't do much. It was a rough week. 60, so that gives me 573.4 points on the season. That has me still in third place in FDS, and it has me 28th in the Schooners group. You had 66.5, so you got me by 6.5 points. That gets you to 535.8 on the season. So I still got you by 40-some points. You're still 5th in FDS, but that actually brought you up to 35th in the Schooners. So
nice.
There's only 7 points that
nice.
are separating us here. Do you want to run us through what you got for your team at the moment?
I'm not fooling around no more.
Okay.
I already said that I'm not fooling around. This week I've got Matt Nichols, Andrew Harris to pummel the Toronto Argos.
Right.
I got Shaquille Cooper, the running back for CJ Gable, who came in last week. He had a great game.
Yeah.
BJ Cunningham from Montreal. Mitchell Pickem from the Hamilton Ticats.
Yep.
I'm benching a flex player in start of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers defense.
Folks, this is a trendsetter right here. Now, a lot of people have been not bothering to start a defense. Wray is starting a defense and just leaving out his flex spot. I haven't heard of anybody crunch the numbers on how this is going to work out, but I love it. All right, my fantasy team right now, Ray, I decided I'm going all in on those Montreal Alouettes. Okay. I'm starting Vernon Adams Jr., stand back at running back, and I'm also starting BJ Cunningham at wide receiver. At my other running back, I'm paying for Andrew Harris.
Nice.
You got to pay for Andrew Harris. I got Chris Matthews of Winnipeg at my wide receiver slot. I'm not going defense this week after going defense 2 weeks in a row. And my flex spot is Devontae Dedman. And really, I just have to hope for some return magic from him. He's a 2,500.
Well, and that's why I figured I'd get more value out of a defense than a cheap flex player like that.
Yeah, even though you've got Mitchell Pickem, who's a very cheap flex player as well.
Yeah,
so anyways,
exactly.
You don't want to have 2 of them, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, fair enough. Well, that's your show for this week, folks. Again, keep the comments coming about our power rankings.
We love it. Listen, all these comments about what's Ray smoking, what's Ray drinking, what's Ray doing, I love them, guys. All right? There's nothing personal here. It's CFL power rankings. Tell me how you feel. If you think I'm a jerk, tell me I'm a jerk.
Yeah, tell him he's a jerk.
All right.
Please. All right.
But no, seriously, thanks for all the comments and likes. We love it. We appreciate it.
Please like, comment, subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to us. If you're listening to us, have yourself a Moose Light this weekend, guys. It's scary good. It's going to be warm.
Or the
Moose Radler if you can stomach those things. All right. Take it easy.
Have a great week, guys.